Finance Minister Tunku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz says the banking sector is estimated to see losses of 6.4 billion during the loan moratorium period. Responding to a question from ex-Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng on costs borne by the banks and further assistance in the event of tighter restrictions, Zafrul says banks face losses of approximately 1.06 billion per month based on MFRS 9. When Lim asked on the possibility of the loan moratorium being extended another 6 months and the assistance given in the event of no extension, Zafrul says the banks have reached out. According to Zafrul, the banks have contacted more than 394,000 individual and SME borrowers who are still adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic to offer loan restructuring and rescheduling. This includes options like extending the loan tenure and converting overdraft facilities to term loans, among others. Afinbank has estimated an 80 million day one modification loss in fixed rate financing assumptions caused by the 6-month moratorium on hire purchase loans. CEO Wan Razli Abdullah Wan Ali says that 63% of its total loan book of 45 billion ringgit is under the current moratorium until the end of September. He highlights that the bank sees consumer confidence picking up as people are buying cars and properties, but the issue at the moment is sustainability. When asked if Afin would extend the moratorium beyond September, Wan Razli says the bank is still looking into it and assessing how the group could assist customers. He says the bank has talked to almost 800 SME customers and only 50 have come back to restructure their loans. In terms of NPLs, Wan Razli says the bank will only get a clearer picture when the moratorium ends in September. The High Court has rejected AirAsia Group and AirAsia X's application for leave to commence judicial review proceedings against the Malaysian Aviation Commission's imposition of a 2 million ringgit penalty each on both airlines for violating the Malaysian Aviation Consumer Protection Code 2016. Justice Datuk Sri Mariana Yahya ruled that MAVCOM's decision to impose the penalties was legally appropriate and valid. Justice Mariana noted that AirAsia and AAX were both reasonably given the right to be heard by MAVCOM following the first penalties imposed. She adds that MAVCOM had the right to impose a higher penalty after both were found to continue violating the consumer code. The judge ruled that AirAsia and AAX would each have to pay MAVCOM 3,000 and the AG's chambers 2,000 ringgit for costs. To recap, MAVCOM had imposed the original financial penalties back in September 2019 related to the airlines charging credit card, debit card and online banking processing fees separate from their base fares. LBS Bina Group has lowered its sales target to 1 billion for FY20 from 1.6 billion announced earlier after taking into account the impact of COVID-19. Group MD Tan Sri Lim Hock San says LBS reviewed its sales target in April following the implementation of the Movement Control Order. However, the loosening of the MCO and the reopening of the economy has resulted in sales momentum improving. Lim says the group has managed to date achieve sales of 780 million and that based on the recent momentum, coupled with lower interest rates and the government's home ownership campaign, LBS expects to surpass its 1 billion ringgit sales target. Total unbilled sales as at July 15 stood at 2 billion, which Lim explains can translate into earnings in the next 2 to 3 years. LBS currently has 15 projects ongoing with an estimated GDV of 4.3 billion and with a focus on affordable housing, plans to launch properties with a total GDV of 3 billion in the next 9 months. A Negeri Sembilan businessman has testified that he donated 6 million to Yayasan Akal Budi, controlled by former DPM Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi in 2016. The donation was in hopes of securing an IT project. Ng Hong Sing has almost 15 companies that are involved in various businesses, one of which is Consortium Multimedia. He testified that in 2015, he had met Datuk Ruzi, who is said to be close to Ahmad Zahid, who is MP of Bagan Datuk Perak. In response to questions from Deputy Public Prosecutor Harris Ong Muhammad Jeffrey Ong, Ng said Aruzi told him that he could introduce the businessman to Ahmad Zahid if he were willing to make a contribution to Akal Budi. The witness said he thought Akal Budi was set up to help poor children.